Very, very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back. So, I hope you guys are thorough with what I have discussed till now and in this break. I hope you guys were able to solve all the questions of study material and past practice manual plus MTPs or RTPs. So, now we are starting with the next part of the syllabus wherein we'll be discussing methods of costing. Good morning, Buma. Good morning, Almas. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Miss Mehta. So, we'll be starting with the next part of the syllabus wherein we'll be starting with the methods of costing. In this today, we'll be starting with process costing. So, let's start with this chapter, process costing. One second. So, let's start with this chapter, process costing. Now, a very important chapter from examination point of view. Examiner do ask questions on process costing in every attempt. When talking about the weightage, we can see the weightage is approx 8 to 10 marks. So now, when talking about process costing, it's a method of costing used by those companies wherein their raw material or input has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. In simple terms, ये वो मेथड ऑफ कॉस्टिंग है जिसमें अगर आपका रॉ मटेरियल जो है दो से ज्यादा प्रोसेस के थ्रू पास करना पड़ता है बिफोर बीइंग कन्वर्टेड इनटू फाइनल प्रोडक्ट, तो वहां पे हम लोग प्रोसेस कॉस्टिंग यूज करते हैं. सो व्हेन टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रोसेस कॉस्टिंग, इट्स अ मेथड ऑफ कॉस्टिंग used by those companies wherein the input, or we can say the raw material, has to pass through two or more than two process before being converted into final product. So how this mechanism work? Let's say this is my input. It is introduced in process first. Now the inputs are introduced in process first. Once the process first gets over, the output of process first is transferred to, let's say there are process second. Further, when the process second gets over, the output of process second gets transferred to process third. And let's say this is the last process, so here we will get the final product. So here we can see that before being converted into final product, the input has to pass through two or more than two processes. So here in this case, we'll be using process costing. So I repeat again, process costing is a method of costing used by those companies or manufacturing concern wherein the input, or we can say the raw material, has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post further. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. I'll be discussing more with the help of a practical example. But I repeat again, guys, whatever the concept part, theory part, whatever I'm discussing and writing it over the board, I request you guys to please copy it. Good morning, Miss Vesu. Let me check. Yes, Rohan. Good morning, Priyanshi. Now, let me let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. Wherein, let's say I am the manufacturer of potato chips from potatoes. I do manufacture potato chips from potatoes, and I do procure these potatoes directly from farm. So here, since I'm manufacturing potato chips, so my input will be what? This will be my input. Now this input is introduced in process first. Let's say sorting, grading, and cleaning of potatoes. So herein, my input, that is in potatoes, are introduced in process first, wherein we do sorting, grading, and cleaning of potatoes. Now, once this process gets over, the output of this process is transferred to the next process. The output of this process is transferred to the next process, wherein we convert potatoes into potato chips. Once the potato chips are ready, again the output of this process is, let's say, transferred to the next process, process third, wherein we do add flavors and preservatives. Again, let's say once this process gets over, again the output of this process is transferred to the next process, let's say process 4, wherein we'll do packing and finishing. And herein we will get the final output. So in this case, we are using process costing, wherein the input has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. Now, since each process is unique, हर एक process क्या है हमारा unique है. So a process account is to be prepared for every process. Again, I repeat, since each process is unique, therefore we will prepare a separate process account for every process to record the costs that are pertaining to a process. I'm writing this for your reference. Since each process is unique, therefore, separate process account is to be prepared to record the cost that are pertaining to a. Since each process is unique and separate, therefore, a separate process account is to be prepared for every process to record the cost that are pertaining to a process. हर एक process जो है unique है, separate है, तो उस process में जो भी खर्चा हुआ है, उसको record करने के लिए हर process का एक separate process account बनेगा. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post further. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Priyanshi, this method of costing is used by those companies wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. So, as I said, even I have mentioned in the notes also, process costing is a method of costing used in industries wherein the material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. A separate process account for each process is opened and all expenditure pertaining to a process is charged to that process account. When talking about how this mechanism works, wherein the input has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. So these are the points what I have discussed till now. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. तो आई होप दिस पार्ट इज क्लियर टू ऑल दैट इस चैप्टर में हमको क्या करना है कि एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस का जो भी खर्चा होता है उसे हम लोगों को प्रोसेस अकाउंट में रिकॉर्ड करना है. So in short, we have to prepare the process account to record all the expenses that are related to a process. Now the question is how to prepare process account. How to prepare process account. How to prepare the basic process accounts when it will be particulars, units, amount. Particulars, units, amount. So the first part, what we will write is the inputs, that is to inputs, or we can say material. The units of inputs along with the amount. Thereafter, we will record all the conversion costs, that is labor, overheads, and all the expenses. Labor, direct expenses, and all the overheads. Further, once the conversion cost is recorded, thereafter we will get the final output that is to be transferred to the next process, let's say process second. The units transferred and the total cost. So this is the very basic format of process account. This is the very basic format of process account. Herein, I have not considered normal loss, and abnormal gain. I'll be discussing this part separately. So as of now, when talking about the very basic process account, the inputs, that is the cost of input, along with this, all the conversion cost. So we will get the total cost of the process along with the units transferred. So this is how a basic process account is prepared. Now let's say if it is process first, thereafter we'll prepare process second account in the similar way. Further, the output of this process is transferred to the next process. So the input of the next process will be what? The output that is received from process first. So the input of process second will be what? Process second का input क्या होगा? The output of process first. Rest again the additional cost, and we will get the final output. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. I'm sharing the format for your reference. So as I discussed, wherein inputs, labor, expenses, right now ignore abnormal gain, abnormal loss, and normal loss. We can see that output we are getting is transferred to the next process, that is process second. Further, when talking about the process second account, again, the input will be what? The input that is received from process first. So accordingly, plus if there are any additional input, we will record. Thereafter, all the conversion cost, and thereafter we will get the final output. So this is the basic format of process account. We'll be discussing this with the help of a practical question also. So if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. So from my notes, it is example number 1. Plus the similar question is there in the study material also, so you can refer study material. So I request you guys to please download the notes what I have provided over the portal. Further, I request you guys, those who are not been able to download, you can refer the study material. So I'm starting with the practical question wherein we'll be discussing the basic process account. So from the following data, prepare process account indicating the cost of each process and the total cost, the total unit that passed through each process were 240 for the period. So herein, we made an input of 240 units and we are getting an output of 240 units. Herein, the question is asking us to calculate the total cost and cost per unit. So the information is given as regards material, labor, and other expenses. Further, indirect expenses amounting to rupees 85,000 may be apportioned on the basis of wages. There was no opening and closing stock. So let's start with this question, wherein we'll prepare process first account. See a slight change in format in this question. In all the remaining question will be following the same format. But yes, in this question, since there is no normal loss, abnormal gain, whatever the inputs we are making, we are getting the final output as same as inputs. And the question is asking us to calculate the per unit cost. So here, instead of units, we'll be using per unit and the total amount, per unit and the total amount. So let's start with the first part, that is material. The material cost is 1,50,000. Labor cost is 80,000. And my other expenses are 26,000. So since inputs are total 240 units, so if we divide all these amounts by 240, we'll get the per unit amount. So herein it will be 625. 333.33. Now, herein the indirect expenses are also given, that is 85,000, that is to be apportioned in the ratio of wages. That is to be apportioned in the ratio of wages. And when talking about the wages, it is 80,000, 2 lakh and 60,000. So we can say 8 is to 20 is to 6. So we will distribute so this will be 20,000. This will be 50,000. And this will be 15,000. for process first, second, and third. So we can say two indirect expenses will get us 20,000 for this process. So we'll get 83.33. Now herein, these are the costs that are associated to this process. No more additional costs. So herein, we can say the output of this process is transferred to the next process, that is process second. And we'll write down the total cost also. $276,000. This will be 1150. Again, this question is just for your reference how to prepare process account. Such type of questions examiner don't ask. This is just for practice, just for a brief idea that how a process account is to be prepared. Now let's start with the next process, that is process second. Now the output of this process is transferred to the next process. So we'll write here two process first, that is 1150 and 276,000. Thereafter again, yes, Priyanshi, it's very easy. Material, labor, and other expenses. So two material, two labor, and two other expenses. That is 52 lakh and 72,000. So 50,000, 2 lakh, and 72,000. Plus, we have to record the indirect expenses also, that is 50,000. Again, we have to divide it by 240 because the question is asking us to calculate the per unit cost. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Now let's prepare process third account. Now output of process second is transferred to the next process, that is process third. So this will be the input, that is to process second. Thereafter, again, we will record the cost of this process. So it's 20, 60, and 25. And the indirect expenses, that is 15,000. So this will be 83.33. This will be 250. And thereafter buy finished stock account. So 6,48,000 plus 20 plus 60 plus 25 plus 15. So the total cost will be 7,68,000. And it will be 3,200. So this is how the basic process account is prepared. No need to copy it. The solution is there in the study material. But yes, if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. Very good, Samohini. Very good. See, there are three process, Samohini. So from process first to process second to process third, and from process third to finished goods. So giving you 2 minutes time, whatever the doubts or queries you have, you guys can please post. Yes, Rohan Sahu, we need to prepare the finished stock accounts also. But since no information is given as regards the unit sold, so that's why we will skip this part. And even the question is asking us to prepare process first, second, and third. So everything is divided by 240. Each and every amount is divided by 240. Since the question is asking us to calculate the per unit cost and the total cost, so the two-column table is prepared wherein per unit and the total amount, and each and every amount is divided by 240 to calculate the per unit part. Admin sir, I hope I am audible. Miss Gurmeet, what exactly you are finding difficult? Sunil Kumar, hopefully your query is resolved. Rohan Sahu, any doubts? Please recheck your system. It's all okay from my side, Gurmeet. Naveen Kumar, I'm not getting what you are asking. Can you please elaborate? See, whatever the expenses that are given related to a process, just record it straight away. Whatever the expenses that are given, you have to record straight away. Naveen Kumar. Anyone else with any doubts or queries? So now we are done with the basic part of process account. Now let's start with the next part wherein we'll be discussing normal loss, and abnormal gain. So let's start with the normal loss. Now, when talking about normal loss, what is normal loss? See, this loss, we can say due to the nature of product, or production process, the loss that is bound to happen is normal loss. Due to the nature of product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen, or we can say it is inherent in nature, that is normal loss. We can't avoid normal loss. So, due to the nature of product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen is normal. We can say it is inherent in nature. Since I have used the word bound to happen, so we can say it is unavoidable. Due to the nature of product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen is normal loss. We can say it is inherent in nature. Further, सिंस पता है कि इतना नॉर्मल लॉस होता है, सी हाउ कम वी कम टू नो, डिपेंड आई मीन फ्रॉम आवर पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस, सो दिस नॉर्मल लॉस कैन बी प्रेडिक्टेड इन एडवांस. कैसे प्रेडिक्ट करेंगे? वेरी सिंपल, विद द पास्ट एक्सपीरियंसेस और पास्ट डेटा. So we can say can be predicted in advance by ये वो लॉस होता है जिसे हम अवॉइड नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज नेचर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट ही ऐसा है. लेट मी डिस्कस दिस विद द हेल्प ऑफ फ्यू एग्जांपल्स. Let's say I'm the manufacturer of potato chips from potatoes. Now I do procure these potatoes from my farms. अब वो फार्म से मेरे फैक्ट्री गेट तक आता है. नाउ ड्यूरिंग दिस प्रोसेस क्या होता है कि देर आई मीन 2 to 3 times लोडिंग होता है, अनलोडिंग होता है, लोडिंग और अनलोडिंग होता है पोटेटोज का. ना सिंस इट्स द नेचर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट, तो क्या होता है लोडिंग और अनलोडिंग के टाइम कुछ परसेंट पोटेटोज हमारे डैमेज हो जाते हैं. वी कांट अवॉइड इट, सो दैट इज नॉर्मल. Another example, let's say I'm into business of processing of crude oil. Now, during the process of conversion of crude oil into petrol, diesel, gasoline, certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated. We can't avoid it because it is the nature of the product, or we can say the production process. So कुछ परसेंट crude oil जो होता है वो क्या हो जाता है, evaporate हो जाता है. So that is what we call as normal loss. Another example, let's say I'm the manufacturer of wooden furniture. ना फर्नीचर बनाते वक्त कुछ परसेंट वुड जो है हमारा स्क्रैप होता है, जो कि हम लोग निकाल देते हैं. सो द परसेंटेज ऑफ वुड दैट इज रिमूव्ड और स्क्रैप्ड आउट is what we call as normal loss. Another example, let's say I'm the manufacturer of shirt. Now during the course of stitching the shirt, कुछ परसेंट फैब्रिक हमारा खराब हो जाता है. Again, we just cut the fabric and just keep it aside. So the percentage of fabric that is kept aside and is not used is what we call as normal loss. So we can say an example of normal loss can be certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated during manufacturing during So I hope this part is clear. The loss that is bound to happen due to the nature of product or production process is normal loss. Can you guys give me a few more examples of normal loss? Everyone, I request you guys to actively participate in the session. Whatever that is running in your mind or whatever you want to speak, you can speak up. So can you guys give me a few examples of normal loss? Waiting for your answers, everyone. In chemicals, what? As I said, लोडिंग और अनलोडिंग के टाइम कुछ परसेंटेज पोटेटोज डैमेज हो ही जाते हैं. दैट इज नॉर्मल लॉस. वाइल अगेन आई रिपीट, ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अ शर्ट कुछ फैब्रिक हमारा हम लोग साइड में रख देते हैं विच इज ऑफ नो यूज. दैट इज नॉर्मल लॉस. सो कैन यू गाइज, yes, that wastage I have already mentioned. Yes, Gurmeet, that while making notebooks extra pages are cut down. Yes, it is normal loss. Processing of chemicals, certain percentage of chemical is evaporated. That is normal loss. Yes, we can say. In fact, a basic example, during the course of preparing tea, certain percentage of water is evaporated. That is also normal loss. Anyone else with any more examples? Yes, everyone. Dharani, Kirti, Gurmeet, Mr. Panchal, Naveen Kumar, Jayendra, Kaushik, Prem Kumar, Priyanshi, that is abnormal loss, Booma, Ananya, Shreya Gupta. Yes, we can say yes, Sunil Kumar. Well said. Naveen Kumar, but what is the normal loss? Yes, Samohini. During the course of loading and unloading of vegetables, certain percentage is waste. So we can say that is normal loss. Yes, we can say. So this is all what about the meaning of normal loss when talking about the treatment of normal loss. When talking about the treatment of normal loss, the cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units. The cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units. The cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units manufactured or produced. In short, the product cost is inflated. I'll be discussing this part with the help of an example. So the cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units manufactured. Further, any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss, any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss, any scrap value or any amount realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost. Any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of output of that process. So any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of output of that process. I'll be discussing this treatment with the help of few examples. Yes, Gurmeet, well said. The answer is correct. Loss of wood during the course of manufacturing furniture, Ananya, very good, correct. Oil packaging unit spilled, that is also correct, Kinari. So, anyways, guys, this is all what about the meaning of normal loss and talking about the treatment. This is the treatment of normal loss. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. As I said, whatever the conceptual part or conceptual examples I'm taking, I request you guys to please copy it. Every time you can't check the recorded lecture, okay, sir ne ye padhaya tha. So, whatever I'm teaching, especially the concept part, write it in your notebook. Plus, apart from this, whatever you have understood from these concepts, do write your comments in your notebook. So every time when you will revise, you will remember that, okay, this is what sir taught and this is what I have understood. So giving you 3 to 4 minutes time, please copy it. Along with this, prepare your notes, write your explanation that what you have understood from this concept. I'll be discussing the treatment part with the help of few example. But yes, please copy this explanation. Rohan, I'll be discussing this with the help of a practical problem. Don't worry, Rohan. No, Rohan. This is generally used by manufacturing concern. Admin sir, the visibility is okay? एकदम clear है ना? Okay. Shreya, I request you to please refresh your system. Now let me discuss this treatment with the help of few examples. Let's say my process cost is 1,80,000. Inputs is, let's say, 10,000 units. Now my process cost is, let's say, 1,80,000. My inputs are, let's say, 10,000 units. Now let's say if there is no normal loss, then my output will be how much? अगर कोई भी नॉर्मल लॉस और abnormal लॉस नहीं होता है तो जो इनपुट होगा वही मेरा क्या होगा? आउटपुट. So then my output will be same, will be 10,000 units. If there is no normal loss, then my output will be how much? 10,000 units. So cost per unit will be how much? 1,80,000 divided by 10,000 units. So cost per unit will be rupees 80. So my process cost is 1,80,000. I made an input of 10,000, and let's say in the first question, when there is no normal loss, then my output will be how much? 10,000 units. Further, my cost per unit will be how much? 1,80,000 divided by 10,000, that is 18 rupees. Now, let's say the normal loss is also given in the question. If the normal loss is also given in the question, which is, let's say, at the rate of 10% of input. Now, in that case, my output will be how much? My inputs are how much? 10,000. My normal loss will be how much? 1,000. Therefore, my output will be how much? 9,000. Now, as I said, the cost of normal loss will be absorbed by good units. It means ये जो 1,000 units का cost है, ये जो 1,000 units का cost है, वो कौन bear करेगा? Remaining 9,000 units. The cost which was earlier absorbed by 10,000 units will now be absorbed by 9,000 units. So, second, if there is normal loss, so the cost per unit will be how much? 1,80,000 is the process cost divided by 9,000 units. So in short, ये जो 1,000 units का cost है, वो कौन bear करेगा? It will be borne by remaining 9,000 units. So here we can see that the product cost is inflated by 2 rupees. So I repeat again, the proportionate cost of 1,000 units will be borne by remaining 9,000 units. I hope this part is clear to all. Anyone with any doubts or queries? Now let's take one more situation. Let's say scrap value is also given at the rate of 4.5 per unit. Scrap value is also given, let's say 4.5 per unit. So we can say the scrap value for normal loss is given. कितना रियलाइज हो रहा है 4.5 per unit. In short, I am realizing 4,500 on sale of these 1,000 units. So see, my process cost is how much? 1,80,000. This is what my process cost. My process cost is how much? 1,80,000. ये हमारा खर्चा हो रहा है. But again, I am recovering something in return. How much? At the rate 4.5 per unit of my normal loss. So that is 4,500 will be deducted. 4.5 into 1,000. So 4,500 will be deducted divided by my 9,000 units. So as I said, whatever the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of that process. So herein, 1,80,000 divided by 4,500 divide 19. So first question, if there is no normal loss, the cost per unit will be 18. If there is only normal loss, then cost per unit will be 1,80,000 divided by 9,000, that is 20. Scrap value for normal loss is given. Then the total cost minus the scrap value divided by the output, that is good units. So we can say cost of good units, how it is calculated. The process cost minus scrap value of normal loss whole divided by my inputs minus the normal loss. So we can say this is the way to calculate the cost of good units. That is, जो भी process cost है उसमें से क्या minus करना है? The scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss whole divided by my inputs minus normal loss. So the product cost will be inflated because of normal loss. If you guys have any doubts or queries, then you guys can please post your queries. I have discussed normal loss in detail. So giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to copy this explanation. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. This is the question, the first solution, the second solution, the third situation, and the final formula that is given in the study material. Again, as I said, there are no formulas in cost accounting. It's all what about concepts that you have to remember. So I request you guys to please copy this part. First this question, second this, third this, fourth this, and then the final formula. Further, again, do write your comments in your notes that what you have understood. Every time you can't check the recorded lecture. So giving you 2 to 3 minutes time, I request you guys to please copy. Rohan Sahu, I hope your query is resolved. Priyanshi Tak, see what I have done. The total cost of the process minus the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss, whole divided by my total number of units, that is good units. How come I have calculated this 9,000? That is 10,000 minus the units of normal loss. Rest, you tell me what exactly you are finding difficult, Priyanshi. Yes, Ananya, any doubts? Kaushik, any doubts? Kinari, Shreya Gupta, Booma, Prem Kumar. See, this is the way you have to present, Gurmeet. Fine, guys, we are done with normal loss now. Two more parts left, that is abnormal loss and abnormal gain. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. I'll be back after 15 minutes with the next part, wherein we'll be discussing abnormal loss and abnormal gain. Edwin, sir, are you there? Okay, everything going good? Visibility and all okay, na? Ashok, sir? Okay. Welcome back, guys, after much needed break. So I have discussed the normal loss in detail. Let's take a question that is example number 2 of my material, wherein there is a small question wherein we have considered normal loss also. I request you guys to please download the notes from the portal. I'm discussing example number 2 from my notes. Similar question is there in the study material also. So let's start with example number 2. The material, it is 1000 units at the rate 100. So total is 1 lakh. Labor cost is 1,50,000. Other expenses are 50,000. Scrap value realized, that is 12,000. Normal loss is 10% of the input. Prepare process account and calculate the cost of good units transferred. So let's start with this question now. So see, the material is 1000 units. The cost is 100, so it will be 1 lakh. Labor cost is 1,50,000. Other expenses are 50,000. Normal loss is 10% of input. So by normal loss, that is 100 units, and the scrap value is 12,000. So my output that is to be transferred to the next process will be 900 units. When talking about the cost of good units transferred, the total cost is 3 lakh. Further, scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss is 12,000. Whole divided by 1000 units minus the normal loss. So we will get the cost of good units. It will be 320. So this is how you have to deal with normal loss in process account. Further, if we prepare normal loss account also, so when talking about normal loss, two process first, 100 units and 12,000. And we can say this is what the amount realized. on these 100 units, that is 12,000 rupees. That's it. So this is the way you have to prepare normal loss account. I request you guys to please copy the solution. And if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. So this is how normal loss will be dealt in process account, and this is how the normal loss account will be prepared. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. I request you guys to please copy this part. So this is all what about normal loss. Now let's start with the next part, that is abnormal loss. So yes, the total will be the same. It's okay. You can prepare a common normal loss account for all the processes. Yes, we will write down the total also, Rohan Sahu. Yes, Priyanshi, tell me. Admin sir, can you please unmute Priyanshi? Admin sir? Yes, Priyanshi, tell me.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Very good morning. Tell me.
Sir, my doubt is that we prepared normal loss account, no? In that the entry was by bank to normal loss. So, sir, it means that we normal loss is income for us or what?
नॉर्मल लॉस मींस व्हाट दैट जो भी यूनिट्स हमारे नॉर्मल लॉस के हुए उसको हमने मार्केट में सेल किया और उससे हमें पैसा आया सो इट दैट बैंक अमाउंट रिफ्लेक्ट्स द अमाउंट दैट इज रिसीव्ड ऑन सेल ऑफ स्क्रैप
Acha, so we have received 12,000. So we have
yes on
translated
sale
into.
of these 100 units
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
done so now let's start with abnormal loss when talking about abnormal loss what is abnormal loss the loss in excess of normal loss is what we call as abnormal loss. The loss in excess of normal loss is what we call as abnormal loss. Loss in excess of predetermined loss. When talking about this word predetermined, we can say it is so the loss in excess of predetermined loss is abnormal loss. It cannot be predicted in advance. Abnormal loss आप advance में predict नहीं कर सकते. Cannot abnormal loss किस वजह से होता है Why abnormal loss? It occurs due to bad plant design or carelessness of workers. Due to bad can we can avoid normal loss if suitable measures are taken care of. So we can say loss in excess of predetermined loss is abnormal loss, cannot be predicted in advance. It occurs due to bad plant design or carelessness of workers or abnormal reason, can be avoided if suitable measures are taken. Let me discuss this concept with the help of an example wherein, as I said, that I am into business of manufacturing potato chips from potatoes. Now, see, if any potatoes are damaged during the course of loading or unloading, we can say it is normal loss. But let's say during transit from farm till my factory, let's say 2 or 3 of my vehicles met accident, and let's say 35 tons of potatoes were damaged or scrapped or spoiled, whatever it is. So in that case, this loss of 35 tons of potatoes is what? My abnormal loss, because it is due to carelessness of driver. If you guys have any doubts in the meaning of abnormal loss, you guys can please post your queries. Another example, let's say I'm into business of manufacturing of shirt. I convert fabric into shirts. Now, अब क्या हुआ? During the course of cutting the fabric, during the course of cutting the fabric, गलती से wrong cutting कर दिया. So herein, due to this, पूरा का पूरा fabric खराब हो गया. So due to that wrong cutting of fabric, पूरा का पूरा fabric खराब हो गया. We call it as abnormal loss. Now, when talking about the treatment of abnormal loss, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. The value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. Further, it is shown on the credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. It is shown in the credit side of process account and thereafter transfer to costing. So this is all what about the concept. The treatment I'll be discussing with the help of few example. Yes, it comes under abnormal loss, Dharani. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Rohan, as I said that it occurs due to abnormal reasons also, we can say when talking about abnormal reasons, it is basically the natural calamities or it can be anything, theft or loss by fire. So normal loss occurs due to carelessness of workers or abnormal reasons or bad plant design. Noted, Mr. Palani. So let's discuss this treatment with the help of an example. Let's say again, my process cost is 1,80,000 rupees. My inputs are, let's say, 10,000 units. My normal loss at the rate of 10% of inputs. Further, when talking about the output, I'm getting output as 8,600 units. Further, scrap value realized at the rate 4.5 per unit. So this is the question wherein the process cost is 1,80,000. My inputs are 10,000. My normal loss is 10% and my output is what? 8,600 units. So herein, see, my inputs are how much? 10,000. My normal loss is how much? 1,000. So my expected output is how much? 9,000. However, my actual output is only 8,600. My actual output is only 8,600 units. I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. However, my actual output is only 8,600 units. It means abnormal losses of how many units? 400 units. Abnormal losses of 400 units. Now, the question is we have to calculate the value of actual output and we have to calculate the value of abnormal loss. Now, as I said, value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. So herein, when talking about the cost per unit, or we can say value of good units, very simple guys, my process cost is 1,80,000. When talking about the scrap value, we will deduct the scrap value realized on sale of normal loss. So my normal loss is 1,000 into 4.5. So this will be 4,500 whole divided by my expected output, this 10,000 inputs minus normal loss. See, 1 second guys. See, as I said, the value of normal loss will be absorbed by good units. So normal loss से क्या होता है? Product cost inflate होता है. But very important guys, product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. Abnormal loss का value क्या होगा? Value will be equal to the value of good units. So very important guys, this will be 10,000 minus 1,000. This will not be 1,400 because the product cost is not inflated because of abnormal loss. Product cost, yes, it is inflated because of normal loss, but yes, very important, product cost is not inflated because of abnormal loss. So, as I said, the process cost minus the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss divided by my inputs minus normal loss. So this will be 19.5. So when talking about the actual value of actual output, it will be 8,600 into 19.5, and value of abnormal loss will be how much? 400 into 90. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. This is all what about abnormal loss. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Samohini, I'll be discussing this part with the help of few practical problems. Don't worry. Any doubts, Samohini? Any doubts, Mr. Palani? Rohan, any doubts? Bunny Preet Kaur, it will be given in the question that it is normal loss or abnormal loss. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. So let's discuss this abnormal loss with the help of a practical question also. I request you guys to please refer my notes. That is example number 3. The similar question is there in the study material also. So let's start with example number 3. So herein a question is given wherein a product passes through two process first and process second. The material issued to process first is 40,000. Again, they have given the detail that is 5,000 units at the rate 8. Further, the wages is 30,000. The manufacturing overheads are 27,000. Normal loss is anticipated as 5% of the input. 4,550 units of outputs were produced and transferred out of process first. Scrap value realized is rupees 2 per unit. You are required to prepare process first account the value of abnormal loss or abnormal gain, and units that are transferred to the next process. So this question is given. So let's start with this question. We have to prepare process account. So here in the material is given, that is 40,000 to material, or you can write inputs. And when talking about the number of units, it is 8,000 units. Sorry, 5,000 units. Wages, it is 30,000, and manufacturing overheads are 27,000. Normal loss is given in the question. That is 5% of the input. So we can say it will be 250. So 250 into the scrap value is also given. Scrap has a realizable value of rupees 2 per unit. So 250 into 2, this will be 500. Now the output that is to be transferred to the next process is also given in the question. That is 4550. Sorry. So now, when talking about my expected output, I was expecting an output of 5,000 minus 250. That is 4750. However, my actual output is only 4550. So it means we can say there is an abnormal loss also. You can keep it as a balancing figure also by abnormal loss, that is of 200 units. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Very good, Shreya. Yes, expected output is 4750. However, my actual output is 4550. It means there is an abnormal loss of 200 units. Now, as I said, very important, guys, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. So herein we have to calculate the value of good units, and we have to calculate the final value of amounts that are transferred to the next process and abnormal loss. Now, when talking about the total process cost, it is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 90, 7,000 is the total. So let's calculate the cost per unit. Very simple, guys. As I discussed, the total process cost 97,000 minus scrap value, that is realized on sale of normal loss, divided by my expected output, that is 5,000 minus 250. So my cost per unit will be 20.32. This will be 4063. This will be 92, 430. So this is how we have to prepare process account when normal loss and abnormal loss is given. Very good, Shreya. Very good. Yes, sir. Now, one more point. How to prepare abnormal loss account? So to process first account, 200 units and 4063. Now, very important, guys. See, as I see, the information is given in the question that whatever the units that are, whatever the units that are scrapped or damaged will be sold at the rate of rupees 2 per unit. So we will assume that just like the normal loss units, just like these 250 units, these 200 units are also sold in the market at the same scrap value. So by bank, these 200 units are also sold in the market at the same price, that is rupees 2 per unit. So 400 amount is realized. I'm writing this for your reference. We will assume that just like normal loss, abnormal loss units are also sold in the market at same price. So how come this 400, 200 into 2? So the balance amount will be transferred to the costing P&L as our loss. So by costing P&L, my loss will be 4063 minus 400. That is 3663. This will be what my balancing figure. So this is how this abnormal loss account is prepared. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your query. Giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to please copy this explanation. So I request you guys to copy this explanation. I repeat again, this is how I prepared process first account and abnormal loss account. Abnormal loss account, same amount that is transferred from process first. Further, we will assume that just like the units that are sold in the market of normal loss, again, the normal loss units will also be sold in the market at the same price. Yes, Ms. Dharani, we have to follow the same assumption for all the questions. So we will assume that just like normal loss, abnormal loss units are also sold in the market at same value, that is rupees 2. So these 200 units are sold in the market at the rate rupees 2 per unit, so total 400. So balance amount will be a loss to the company, that is 3663. So this is how abnormal loss account is to be prepared. No need to, it's by default. See, at the end of the day, there is a loss of 200 units in the name of abnormal loss. अब ये 200 units market में sale होंगे ही. So that's why I have taken this part. Priyanshi. We have received 400 rupees. It is given in the question that these units, the loss units, can be sold in the market at rupees 2 per unit. So just like normal loss, abnormal loss units are also sold in the market at the rate rupees 2 per unit. No need to mention Dharani. Okay, guys, giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to please copy this explanation. Thereafter, Mr. Mayank from ICAI will be guiding you how to prepare and how to, how to prepare for your exams and the syllabus. So, request you guys to just take request you guys to please copy this explanation. Thereafter, Mr. Mayank Jain will be there to guide you guys. So, please copy this explanation. Miss Samohini, that is basically the rounding of difference. No, Rohan, this is the way you have to present, wherein just like these units are sold in the market, these units are also sold in the market. So balance amount will only be transferred to costing P&L. This is the only way to prepare abnormal loss account. I request you guys to copy this explanation. It will be adjusted against the loss amount, Prem Kumar. Anyone else with any doubts or queries, guys? Waiting for your queries on abnormal loss. We are done with abnormal loss. Yes, anyone with any doubts or queries? Miss Dharani, Banipreet Kaur, Gurmeet, Kirti, Jayendra, Kaushik, Neeraj, Prem Kumar, Bhuma, Priyanshi, Almas, anyone having any doubts? Samohini, Mr. Palani, anyone having any doubts? Okay, great. So Mayank sir, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving me 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, students. So let me introduce myself. I am CMA agent from Board of Studies ICAI. So I will take your 5 minutes just to give a quick recap or the quick summary of this chapter, as well as give you some preparation tips for the exams. So this chapter, process costing, is all about the process followed in manufacturing companies. So some of the important areas or the important point to remember in this subject or in this chapter is calculation of equivalent unit. So most important area in this chapter is calculation of equivalent unit along with the calculation of or the treatment of all losses or gains, just like a normal loss, abnormal loss, or abnormal gain. So whenever you are calculating equivalent unit, you have to focus on WIP and the labor and the overheads. Since material is normally 100% used, so you have to focus on WIP and the labor and the overhead, how much labor and overhead is used and how much WIP is completed. And another area is treatment of losses and the gains. So whenever you are treating any loss or the gain, you have to focus on the calculation of rate at which they are treated. Just like normal losses treated at the rate at which are finished products or the product which are transferred to the next process. So this is the area to be focused. And one important point in this chapter where the students um, faces problem. Sometimes in question you are given the rate at which amount is transferred to the next process, and students are unable to calculate the wastage of a particular process. Just like you have been given the rate at which the wastage is transferred to the next process, but now you have to calculate the total wastage or the total normal or abnormal loss. So you have to practice a lot in this question just to get your reverse calculation. This is nothing only a reverse calculation. So you have to focus on that area also. So this is a brief about this chapter. And one more important point in this subject is practice. You have to practice a lot. This subject require practice and practice. Whenever you do any question, you have to once practice, then only you can do the audit of any question. Just like once you practice with a pen and paper, now you want to again practice the same question, now you can audit the question, but you have to practice at least once or twice in pen and paper. So this chapter is only focused on practice and practice. Once cleared your concepts, now you have gained confidence. I can do anything in this chapter, or I can do anything in this subject. But once you take the pen and paper, you get your queries, you get your problems, the areas in which you are getting your problems. So you have to practice a lot in this chapter. And Vipin sir is also a motivator. Whenever you feel demotivated, just ask him to motivate you. He's a very good motivator and a very good coach as well. And I hope you are enjoying the sessions. And if you have any problem, you can ask him or you can mail us also for any problems. Hope you don't have any query regarding the uh, chapter or the subject. If you have any query, you can ask him and you can also mail us, and you can also put your query in admin portal as well or the BS Knowledge portal. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much, sir, for your time as well.
Thank you so much, Mayank sir, for your time and for your guidance, sir. So
Thank you,
students, let's, okay, 1 second, someone raised hand.
No.
So students, let's proceed further we are done with abnormal loss now. So let's start with the next part wherein we'll be discussing abnormal gain. Don't worry, Rohan, I'll be covering this part with the help of practical question also. Don't worry. Let me complete this abnormal gain. Thereafter, in the next session, we'll be discussing a full-fledged question wherein I'll be covering this part also. So don't worry, I'll be covering each and every point in detail. So don't worry. Anyways, guys, let's start with the next part. We have done with normal loss. We are done with abnormal loss. Now let's start with the next part, that is abnormal gain. Again, two parts, meaning and treatment. Now, when talking about abnormal gain, see, when the actual production exceeds the expected production, अगर हमारा actual production जो है हमारे expected output से ज्यादा है, हमारा actual output जो है वो expected output से ज्यादा है, so this is what we call as abnormal gain. So when the actual output exceeds the expected output, it is what, or abnormal gain. So what is abnormal gain? When actual production exceeds expected production, it is abnormal gain. Further, in most of the cases, we can say it is also a saving in normal loss. Alternatively, we can say it's a saving in normal loss. Very important point. We can also say abnormal gain as a saving in normal loss. Now, I mean, this abnormal gain arises due to overestimation of normal loss. अगर हमने नॉर्मल लॉस को ज्यादा एस्टिमेट कर दिया, इस वजह से भी abnormal gain आता है. Apart from this, we can say that abnormal gain arises due to improvement in production process also, or we can say efficiency of worker. So abnormal gain arises due to, we can say, overestimation of normal loss, or it can be due to improvement in production process, or it can be due to efficiency of work. When talking about the treatment again, also, abnormal gain will be shown in the debit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. When talking about the value of abnormal gain, it will be equal to the value of good units. So value of abnormal gain will be equal to the value of good units. Further, it is to be shown in debit side of process account, thereafter transferred to costing P&L. To be shown in debit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing. So when the actual production exceeds the expected production, that is abnormal gain. Abnormal gain, when talking about the value, it will be equal to the value of good units. Further, it is to be shown in debit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. Yes, it is possible, Priyanshi. Have some patience. In the coming session, I'll be taking a full-fledged question. In that question, there will be abnormal loss also, normal loss also, abnormal gain also. So don't worry. I'm discussing each and every point separately. The reason being is that once you are done with these concepts, you can solve any questions very easily. So the point is that costing is all what about concepts. So focus more on concepts. Once you are thorough with the concept, if you solve few questions, in fact, you will be able to solve any questions. So anyways, guys, I request you guys to please copy, giving you 2 to 3 minutes time. No, Rohan. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. No, Miss Dharani. Again, I repeat, guys, whatever the conceptual part, whatever the problems I'm taking to discuss the concept, do copy it and do write your comments that this is what you have understood. I repeat, you won't be able to check the recorded lecture every time. Just read the book and you'll be able to revise it. So prepare your notes. I mean, आप अपने notes खुद बनाइए. Prepare your own notes and these notes will help you while revising during exams. Anyways, guys, so let's discuss one more question on abnormal gain now. The same question of my material, that is example number 3. Miss Rajni Kumari, the important part is make sure you are regular and punctual in class. Rest you can check over the portal. All the information is given over the portal. Anyways, guys, so let's start with example number 3. The same question. The second part, also answer if the output is 4850. So let's start with this example. Now see, herein in the second part, also answer if my output is 4850. So by process second, if my output is 4850. Now guys, very important, I was expecting an output of how much? 5000 minus 250, that is 4750. I was expecting this much output only. But my output, my actual output exceeds my expected output. Wherein, when the actual output exceeds the expected output, these 100 units extra is what my abnormal gain. Alternatively, you can say it as balancing figure also. So when the actual output, see my actual output 4850 exceeds my expected output, that is 4750. So here in this 100 units is what? My abnormal gain. Again, there will be no change in cost per unit. We have to calculate these two values. Again, there will be no change in cost per unit. It will be same, that is 97,000 minus 500 divided by my expected output, that is 5,000 minus 250. That is 20.32. So 20.32 into 4850. This will be 98,532. This will be 2032. Further, very important guys, when talking about the preparation of abnormal gain account, it's very important. Herein, as I said, what is abnormal gain? As I said, abnormal gain is what? We can say it is a saving in normal loss. So, if you want to prepare abnormal gain account, you have to prepare normal loss account also. Units and amount, units and see, my normal loss is how much? 250. So 2 process first, 250 units and 500. Now, very important guys, can you tell me how many units are actually sold in the market? Waiting for your answers. Even though my normal loss is 250, which is what my estimated loss or predicted loss, can you guys tell me how many units are actually sold in the market? I repeat again, how many scrap units are sold in the market? Can you guys tell me? Rohan, incorrect answer. Everyone waiting for your answers. Can you guys tell me how many units are actually sold in the market? I've got answer from Rohan. Okay, so Miss Dharani, your answer is correct. Priyanshi, correct answer. Shreya, incorrect answer. Neeraj Patel, correct answer. Very good, guys. Rohan, please read the question carefully. Think what all concepts I have discussed and accordingly post the answer. The same goes to Shreya also. Your answer is incorrect. Okay, Vishnu Kumar, correct answer. Rohan and Shreya, please post correct answer. Shreya, it is again incorrect. As I said, well, what is abnormal gain? We can say it is a saving in normal loss. Rest all waiting for your answers. Ananya, Kaushik, where are you guys? Now, Shreya, it is correct. Very good. Rohan, waiting for your correct answer. Kinari, correct answer. Very good, Rohan, correct answer. Sunil Kumar, I'm just talking about the number of units. Rest all waiting for your answers, guys. Booma, I'm waiting for the number of units. Almas, waiting for your answer. Vishnu. Very good, Jayendra. Correct answer. So see, when talking about the units that are actually sold in the market, see, out of 250 units, 100 is abnormal gain. total 250 units हमने loss predict किया था of this, there is an abnormal gain of 100 units. When talking about the actual units, the units, see, 100 units is what my abnormal gain. So the units that are actually sold in the market is only 150 units. The units that are actually sold in the market is 150 units. So 300 is realized and balance will be adjusted against abnormal gain. Very good, everyone. All your answers are correct now. So Jayendra correct, Almas correct answer. Very good, guys. So 150 units are actually sold in the market and balance will be adjusted against abnormal gain. So when talking about abnormal gain by process, first it is 100 units, 2032. Now this will go here. 2 normal loss, 100 and 200. So the balance amount that is to be transferred to costing P&L as profit is 1832. This is the way you have to prepare abnormal gain account. If you guys have any doubts or queries, I request you guys to please post your queries. Further, I request you guys to copy this explanation. Miss Banpreet Kaur, I think it's basically the rounding of difference, nothing more than that. See, when talking about the abnormal, when talking about the units that are sold in the market, it is only 150 units. So this amount we can say it is the balancing figure, my dear. No, Priyanshi, we have to treat it separately. See, let me discuss a full-fledged question, Priyanshi, then only I'll be able to make you understand, guys. So just wait for one more session. I'll be discussing a full-fledged question, Priyanshi. Banipreet Kaur, it's basically the rounding of difference. Anyone else with any doubts or queries? I'm done with abnormal gain also. So let me give you a quick recap of what we have discussed till now. We started with method of costing wherein we started with process costing. It's a method of costing used by those companies wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. Since each process is unique or separate, therefore a separate process account is to be prepared for every process to record the costs that are pertaining to a process. Thereafter, we discussed the basic question on process account. Further, we discussed the normal loss, that is the loss that is bound to happen is normal loss. It can be predicted by management well in advance. When talking about the treatment of normal loss, we can say it is the value of normal loss is absorbed by good units, and further any scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the total cost of process. Further, we discussed abnormal loss, that is loss in excess of normal losses, basically abnormal loss. It occurs due to carelessness of workers, bad plant design, or it can be due to abnormal reason. Further, it can be avoided if suitable measures are taken. When talking about the treatment of abnormal loss, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units, and it is to be shown in credit side of process account, and thereafter it is transferred to costing P&L. Further, we discussed abnormal gain. Again, when the actual production exceeds the expected production, that is abnormal gain, or we can say it is also a saving in normal loss. Abnormal gain may arise due to efficiency of workers, or we can say it may be due to overestimation of normal loss also. Further, again, very important, guys, the treatment, the abnormal gain account is related to normal loss. So be careful while preparing abnormal gain account, because yes, we have to prepare normal loss account before preparing abnormal gain account. I hope you guys are thorough with what I have discussed in today's session. Anyone having any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. In the coming session, we'll be discussing a full-fledged question wherein there will be normal loss, abnormal gain, finished stock account, costing P&L, everything. So if you guys have any conceptual queries, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, everyone. Rajita, Rajini, anyone having any doubts? Samohini, Mr. Palani, any doubts? Kaushik, Ananya, Almas, any doubts? So fine, guys. 1 second. Yes, Rohan. Better take the full figure for the value of units that are transferred to the next process and keep the value of abnormal loss or abnormal gain as balancing figure, Banpreet. I repeat, when talking about the value of units transferred, take the full decimals and then take the value of abnormal gain or abnormal loss as balancing figure. So fine, guys. Thank you so much for your time and patience and for active participation in the session. I think I have next session on this chapter on Tuesday. So till then, I request you guys to please revise what I have discussed in today's session and be prepared for the next class. In fact, come prepared for the next class. We'll be discussing few full-fledged questions on process costing, and we'll be discussing few advanced problems relating to work in progress. Till then, take care. God bless you. Enjoy your weekend. Admin, sir? Yes, sir. Thank you. You too, sir. Take care.